Hi, everybody. Welcome into another edition, episode 107 of the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. Great to have you in today on the audio side, Apple, Google, Spotify, and of course, watching on YouTube, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast page. Thank you for joining us. Let me bring in professional evaluator, successful business owner, former coach, friend, and co-host, Jake Epstein. Eric Brown, drafted by your team, the Milwaukee Brewers. 28th overall in the first round in last week's MLB draft. A kid out of by the way, hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I didn't mean to do that, by the way. That was not planned.
I'm looking at his swing right now again.
It was not planned. I would never do that to you. Eric Brown. I have a couple of notes I made because I did some evaluating on him this week. I got to tell you, though, straight out, we've got a lot to get to today. Our main topic, getting on plane with a pitch. We're re-examining that. Mm-hmm. Getting on plane with a pitch, a phrase that was coined by your father, the great Mike Epstein, many years ago. Eric Brown, I've noticed with Brewers players and who they draft in recent years, Sal Frelick last year, who, by the way, I don't mean to brag. You know, you and I both can do like a humble brag right now. We were right about him. He's really hitting well, although he's striking out a little too much, but he's hitting well right now. I think he's at the double level. Anyway, Eric Brown, the Brewers seem to like some players, a lot of players who can play up the middle and who are very, very athletic. That's what I've noticed about that.
Yeah. And that's kind of where they're going with it, right? They drafted a decent amount of middle infielders in this draft. We'll see who they sign, as well internationally. But it seems to be what they're trying to do, and they've done a pretty good job with it. So they're smart. Their scouting department and their front office and their analytics department, they put so many things together when they make their draft picks, and hopefully they made the right one this time as well.
Yeah, they did certainly last year, in my opinion, drafting Sal Frelick out of Boston College in the first round. Now, with Eric Brown, he was ranked right around the 60 mark in terms of prospects. I don't think the Brewers really like to look at too many lists that are put out there. They kind of like to build their own, and all teams do. But a lot of teams and their draft picks line up to those draft boards, so to speak, from some of the media. And the Brewers kind of, and they did this last year with Sal Frelick, they sort of go off track a little bit and stick to what their plan is.
For sure they do, and what their needs are. A lot of times they're not just taking the best player on the board, if it doesn't fit in what their grand scheme is. If the best player on the board is a third baseman, but they are deep in third baseman, then they're not going to take him just to take, an elite player that they're going to have to pay a ton of money to in the draft, and we'll see where he ends up signing. A lot of times, it's a big game with all the organizations. You have your allotted amount of money. And if you can save some money on the front end and not have to overpay for guys, over slot value or at slot value, and you can save a few $100,000 on your first few picks. Now all of a sudden you got an extra $1 million and you can go after somebody that maybe was thinking about going to college and draft them really late, in the 17th or 18th round and be like, hey, we got $1 million for you, even though your slot money's, $92,000. And so there's a big game, and that's all part of it with all the organizations. How they're going to spend their money, and maybe they're going to sneak and draft guys late and give them more money.
A couple of notes that I have here on Eric Brown. He tends to get a little bit too long. I'm not going to ask you to agree or disagree because it's your organization. It's just
he has an interesting load, right?
My opinion.
If you saw his load, he starts almost like Mike Bordick used to start, with the hands real far forward. Yeah. That's his own style, and maybe he feels his hands, but his big thing will be adjusting to off-speed pitches like anybody else that gets to pro ball, and having the adjustability in the swing by keeping the hands back. That's really important. But foundationally, his legs and all that kind of stuff, they work well. You're not going to draft somebody in the first round that is you have to put a lot of effort into. That's not the idea of first rounders. You want them to. You just want to support them and get them in there and get them at bats and let them play and support them if they start to struggle.
He's an interesting athlete. He's a great athlete. Grades out for me above average. But again, this is just strictly my opinion. I think he's a little bit stiff. I think he's going to end up at second base. And there's one, before we move on with him, Eric Brown. I have a comp that his body type, a little bit like Colton Wong, but I do have a comp for him that's a little bit interesting.
Yeah.
He reminds me Ronnie Cedeno as a player.
Yeah.
A little bit. Ronnie Cedeno, by the way, was a pretty good player. All right. Moving on here. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc., etc. And you can leave your comments on our YouTube page, the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page, full episodes and clips of previous episodes. I promise this. I've been teasing it now for the past couple of weeks. By the way, I look great on this new stream.
So clear.
It's great. I love it. I discovered it literally. We're recording this on a Saturday. I discovered it literally on a Friday from somebody.
Wow.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to try that. Now, we're creatures of habit, if the audience doesn't know, 106.5 episodes in. So we always were, but actually this podcast has gone through 3 maturations. Skype, Zoom.
Correct.
And now, what's this one? StreamYard.
Yep.
Amazing.
I like it.
I know, I do too.
It's got a good logo.
You can clearly see my beautiful teeth now, and no more. You know what? The battle is over. Jim versus the lighting.
I know, the camera and the lighting. Jeez, what are we going to talk about?
It's the end of an era. I promise this. I've been teasing it for the last couple of weeks. Teams in the postseason, because the second half is underway. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you, and I don't know how much you've been watching of Major League Baseball as of late. I'm just going to give you some division winners, and I'm not going to give you a World Series pick yet. I don't do that until the fall. Okay. But I will indeed give you who I think will be in the World Series. I'll give you 2 options. Okay. Teams in the postseason. American League division winners. I'm going to start there. You got the Yankees, the Astros, and the Twins. They're my division winners. AL wild card. Tampa Bay, Seattle, Boston. Even though they lost last night, 24. Wow. Boston. Oh, it gets better. The NL division winners. The Mets. Sticking with the Mets. I'm not going with the Braves. I'm sticking with the Mets.
Yeah.
Only because of Xavi. I believe in.
I think they got Vogelbach. Did they just recently pick him up?
They just got Vogelbach as well, I think. Pretty sure.
Dodgers. I think that's for the Staten Island hot dog eating contest. Is that why they got Vogelbach?
The Dodgers.
That dude's a monster.
How much does he weigh? What is he? 250?
Well, God, he's got to be 3 bills, I would think.
Really?
290? Yeah.
290. Yeah, that makes
5'10".
5'10", 290.
I don't know how
he's my height. He's my height, 209. So picture me.
Yeah.
290 pounds.
I don't know.
Can you imagine doing a podcast with a guy who's my height, 290 pounds every week? I would take up the whole screen.
Yeah.
So I have the Dodgers in the West winning the National League, and then I have the Brewers winning in the Central.
Yeah.
My wild card. Okay. Atlanta, San Diego.
Oh.
You don't believe in San Diego?
No, I do believe in San Diego, but they're so up and down. Not the Cardinals.
Well,
no,
they're
not.
If they're up and down, if San Diego's up and down, San Francisco is really up and down. I don't know what. So wild card: Atlanta, San Diego, St. Louis. I do have them as the wild card.
That's a good call.
My World Series. You ready for this one? This will be a good one. Maybe I was influenced because I was watching some Seinfeld clips last night on YouTube. By the way, the episode of when George's parents try to break up with him, the firings, the breakups, it's classic. My World Series, I got another Subway Series. The Mets against the Yankees.
Wow.
Bingo, zingo. There's my World Series right there. Although the Houston Astros are pretty good, I really would be interested to see an Astros-Yankees American League Championship Series. That would be phenomenal. Okay, now
they love each other so much.
They do. My second option. You're going to think this is crazy. So is the audience, but I don't care. Second option for the World Series. Boston against Philadelphia. Now, mind you, I didn't have Philadelphia as my wild card, but if they get hot because they can pitch, and their relievers are pitching well. And when they get back Harper and Segura, if they get hot, look out. I'm telling you right now. If they get hot.
Would be the biggest turnaround. Wonder how many clubs that have fired a manager and ended up in the World Series. Fired a manager early, like before the break.
Right. And Boston, you're wondering, well, why Boston? They lost last night 28-4. And they've been very, you want to talk about being up and down. They've been very up and down this year. Why Boston? I'll tell you why Boston. And I've said this the entire year from the second game of the season. They see a lot of pitches and they can wear your staff down in the postseason.
Yeah, in 7 games.
Yes.
Sure can.
Yeah. And with Philadelphia being that the postseason is really a crapshoot, would you want to really face their pitching staff with a lineup that's boasted by the guys coming back? If they make the postseason, I'm not so sure. So that's my second World Series pick. Boston, Philadelphia, and Fox should love those 2 picks because they're big markets and they'll get high ratings and a lot of advertising dollars.
Absolutely, yeah. Nobody wants to see a West Coast team or a Central team.
Although an interesting team that there is one team that interests me a lot, and that's the Cardinals as well. Very interesting.
That's good. I'm happy for you.
Has your opinion changed on Juan Soto yet? We're going to talk about him and coming up.
Oh, yeah, and moving? Yeah, what are the Mets going to get him?
I still think the Phillies should go out and get him.
Who do you have to give up? That's what I want to know.
I said last week, for those, if you did not listen last week, for our audience, you can go back. I said Soto to the Phillies for Schwarber. Phillies have to eat 3 years of his contract. Schwarber, Vierling, kick in $200K international money, and 2 young stud pitchers in the minor leagues. Who doesn't do that deal? Your team gets better if you're the Phillies. Would you rather have Schwarber or Soto in that ballpark? Oh my God, Soto may hit it out of that ballpark, like literally out of the ballpark.
Yeah, no, I just, you got to give Soto. You have to receive 2 frontline starters that you can plug into your team.
Potential?
Right away.
Are we talking? Oh, okay, right away.
No, like right away.
All right.
So Schwarber, Vierling. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, not frontline, but
I love Matty
Schwarber. V. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have to give up a lot, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, it's got to be a big market team anyway. Probably the Dodgers. They need more guys to put on the injured reserve list anyway.
Well, Juan Soto, he was in the outfield at the All-Star game. I don't know if you saw this. And he smiled at the crowd when they were saying that he should, or something, chanting at him, Dodgers or whatever. Yeah. And he turned around and smiled. Yeah. And then after that, right after that, he had to run off the field because he realized it was the 3rd out of the inning. I did that when I was 10 years old once. I don't think I ever told you this story, but I was in center field when I was 10 years old. I was playing for a team called the South Jersey 89ers, right? Because we were born in 89. Right. And I was in center field, and I thought it was the 2nd out of the inning. And I was like raising my arm, I'm going 2 outs, and everybody's like running off the field. And I didn't notice until like literally like 30 seconds, and like the other team's coming out on the field.
They're running you off.
Yeah, I went 2 for 4 that day, so I made up for it.
You were in your own place.
I was in my own world. Although my dad was not happy with me after the game. He said I should always be paying attention, among other expletives. Email the show, jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. Speaking of Juan Soto, and I have a list here of hitters that I want to ask you about really quickly, but I'll get to Soto first. With Juan Soto, he was in the home run derby again, 2nd consecutive year. He won it, right? I think he won it this year. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was in and out. Then I went to sleep. Okay. He won the home run derby. He didn't win last year in 2021. Won it in 2022, though. And there's some couple of statistics I want to break out. And this is from Sarah Langs on baseballsavant.com. She wrote a really good article about Juan Soto breaking out possibly in the second half. Last year in 2021, his fastball percentage, his fly ball percentage, FB, I wrote that on my notes. That's why I got all confused. 16.7%. Okay, that was in the first half. In the second half last year, fly ball percentage went up 25%. His ground ball percentage was the highest of his career at that point in the All-Star break, Now, at season's end, that ground ball percentage was at 52.9%, which ended up being one of the best statistic of his career as it pertains to the ground ball percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in my opinion, I want to ask you if you think there is something to the home run derby helping out hitters like a Soto who is struggling, but a guy who has power. But this tells you, in my opinion, again, it goes to my point about attack angle and how important it really is and adjusting that attack angle. And sometimes the home run derby, I think, because mentally may help you actually do that. And we've talked so many times about the drills that Soto does or drills that hitters do that goes against their mechanics, but it's almost a mental thing for them.
Mm-hmm. His home run derby was very different. He sprayed it all over the park. He wasn't swinging very hard the first 2/3 of his home run derby. He was just trying to hit balls up the middle. He wasn't turning on much. And the commentators even said he really needs to start pulling it more. And then towards the end, when he really had to juice it, it was almost like he was reserving his energy. And you could see him start to get the bat head out in front more and really turn on pitches. But it was an interesting, like he was using the whole field. The guy was throwing the ball down the middle. Soto was kind of off the plate. And if it was a little bit like one ball further outside, he was trying to take it to left field. And like a hit, like he wasn't even trying to smoke it into left field. He was just trying to kind of backspin it out there. So if you look at his swing plan, I posted one on the Epstein Hitting Twitter account that somebody else posted. I reposted it, and it was such a good swing of a home run, but it was totally different than everyone else's home runs. You know, if you look at J-Rod's home runs or not as much Schwarber, actually, he was pretty flat, but Soto was a lot flatter than those other guys. You know, even you look at the polar bear, who he started to top spin a ton of stuff when the pressure got on because he started to swing up too much and he started to lift it and he was a little bit quick on it. And Soto was one that when he missed it, he cut it too much and kind of popped it up. So it was an interesting home run derby in that most guys swing up like 20 degrees, 15 to 20 degrees in the home run derby because the guys are just lobbing it in there.
Yeah.
You know, the ball's dropping 20 something degrees. They're trying to lift it. So guys swing up way too much in the home run derby where those swings typically don't play off 90 plus. But Soto kept his swing more game-like, I would say. He was the one guy, he got lower in his legs. He wasn't upright and kind of leaning back a lot. He was staying through. That's why he was using the whole field. But then when it was time to go, he got up on the plate a little bit more and then just started exploding and turning through. And it wasn't swinging up more. He was just turning faster. He was just swinging harder and getting his barrel to, hit balls to right field and right center field. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see. I'm like, he's going to lose. He's not pulling anything. It doesn't even look like he's trying. And then all of a sudden, when there was a minute left, he just all of a sudden started to swing the bat. And it was like, wow, he's so quick and explosive when he wants to be.
Yeah. I have a list here. Second half hitters, hitters in the first half. And actually, this dates back. I took this picture yesterday, Friday. I thought it'd be interesting. I want to get your opinion on this. Interesting list. Lowest batting averages in Major League Baseball since July 28th, 2021. And this is when the Yankees, I think this was on Baseball or whatever, when the Yankees traded for Joey Gallo. Since July 28th of 2021, Joey Gallo's had the lowest batting average in all of baseball at 162. And then there's Rougned Odor at 186. The list gets a little bit interesting as we go along, though. Max Muncy, 188. Cody Bellinger, 195. Carlos Santana, 199. Trent Grisham, 202. Gary Sanchez, who at this point we're not, unfortunately, I hate to say it, we're not too surprised about. Gary Sanchez, he's at 204. Although he does have that power ceiling, which, helps, and any team would take that. Matt Chapman signed a big deal with the Blue Jays, 214. And then Patrick Wisdom, small sample size from last year, but he's hitting 215. But here's what I'm curious about. Chapman, Grisham, Santana, Bellinger, Muncy, all proven hitters really struggling in the batting average department. I mean, some of these numbers are just crazy to think about and in regards to how low they are.
Yeah, I don't know. Muncy's a surprise to me.
Yeah.
But Muncy's the biggest surprise. Bellinger's not a surprise. Bellinger had a good year or 2 good years when he came up, and then they figured out how to pitch him, and he hasn't made any adjustments.
What are they doing? What are they doing with him? Sorry to cut you off. I'm just curious with what are they doing? What are they pitch? How are they pitching him?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just throw him up. They
Okay.
throw him up, and then they try to crowd him. And then as soon as he starts cheating to try to get to those pitches, then they just go the other way.
Yeah.
So, but he can't make the adjustment because his stride is so late and so fast, and he just won't change. I don't know. I can't imagine there's no one in that organization that has told him he needs to change his rhythm, because it's killed him. So he was great when he was getting fastballs out over the plate, and he's athletic, and then all of a sudden people started to figure him out, and now he struggles. So, I'm thinking of other guys. Grisham was never a highly rated guy on my end. I didn't think he would be an everyday big league hitter. Back when he was in AA with the Brewers. So that's not a shock to me. Now he plays great defense, so that's why he's a big league center fielder. But hitting wise, he didn't have the swing that I thought at that time to be very successful. And then obviously he was in that trade, in the Brewers. Who did they get? They got it was a really good trade for them. Who was a shortstop? Who did they get? They got somebody.
He came up with the Brewers and was then traded to the Padres. Yeah.
He was then traded to the Padres. So that one, Grisham doesn't really surprise me, because I don't know if he's been totally proven yet at the big league level, where he's hit. He may have had a decent half a season when he first got to San Diego, or maybe the first half of last year.
Yeah.
Other guys, Chapman's never hit for a high average. So it's guys that have the ability to hit that aren't. Like Gallo has been a good hitter before. Why is he so bad and struggling? Is it approach for him? I think it's a vision. It's a deteriorating vision issue,
Interesting.
Which I think is probably the culprit there. There were whispers about that long ago before he got drafted. So I don't know if that's the case, or if he just had a regular vision problem, where he has to wear special contacts. I'm not real sure about that, but I think he's more of a vision guy.
Yeah.
Because when I look at his swing, it's not a old Chris Davis, left-handed Chris Davis. It's not that kind of swing that's going to lead to that many misses.
Yeah.
So at that time, it's approach. These guys aren't Sanchez, like 100%. It's his approach. Sure. That dude has a pretty damn good swing. He really does. And I've seen him hit in person, and the ball explodes off his bat with him swinging at 80%. He is so whippy. He has a good hand path. He stays on plane, or at least he did. I haven't seen him this year, but it's not a mechanical thing with him. Maybe it's a little bit of his rhythm. I don't know. I haven't really dived into that, but it's got to be approach when it comes to Sanchez. It's got to be, what pitches he's looking for, how aggressive he is or not aggressive he is, but he should be able to hit. He's proven himself before he could hit. His swing hasn't really changed much. So for him, I'm going like full approach and what his plan is when he steps into the box, or just mental, maybe he gets down on himself or whatever.
I do wonder with Gary Sanchez, and I think the guy on that list, by the way, that has the best bat to ball skills that surprises me the most is Muncy.
Muncy,
I had a brain fart there. Yeah, Max Muncy was the best.
I agree.
I think on that list has the best bat to ball skills that surprises me the most. But with Gary Sanchez, wasn't that his problem in New York a lot? And I think the Yankees probably just got fed up. Was this constant lack of approach, or lack of flexibility in changing that approach? I mean, one at bat, you'd see him swinging at fastballs that are on the inner half and crushing them right over the wall. But then he'd be taking tough pitches on the outside part. Then in the next plate appearance, he'd swing in a slider in the dirt, swing and miss, or foul tip it. The pitcher would go right back to it, and he'd do it again. He'd swing again. It seemed like he was repeating patterns and mistakes and just never could nail down a true approach. That was the problem, I think, in New York, and it seemingly has carried over to Minnesota.
Well, and he's not a great catcher, right? So, I mean, you got to probably hit 40 jacks and have 130 RBIs to make up for the receiving aspect of his game, and he just wasn't doing that. So, yeah, it was a good move for them. So he needed to get out of New York, get a fresh start, but that fresh start hasn't been very positive for him yet.
I look forward, if this does indeed happen somehow. I hope it does. Hopefully the universe aligns it. When the Twins play the Yankees, and once again, A tradition like no other. The Yankees beat the Twins in the postseason again. Somehow, some way, please, universe, align that for me. It's the tradition that just keeps on giving. Who are the Twins playing in the postseason? Who are they playing in the postseason? Oh, they're playing the Yankees. Oh, never mind.
I don't know. Frank Viola could come back. You never know.
So could, yeah.
Herbeck.
Joe Mauer could come back, right?
Yeah.
Be sure to follow us on. Although the Twins didn't win with Joe Mauer,
they didn't win with Joe Mauer.
They didn't beat the Yankees when he was there, so it makes you think he's going to out of retirement.
No.
At Jim Tara, at Epstein, hitting on social media, Twitter and Instagram. Let's get into our main topic, episode 107, getting on plane with the pitch, re-examined, level to the baseball. That's what your dad talked about, what you talked about, when people say, hey, swing level. Usually it was meaning swing down, and it's not so much the case anymore. It's actually the pendulum has swung and it's gone the other way. But one thing that stayed true is swinging level to the baseball that is coming at you. Is that something, right? Am I correct in swinging level to the ball?
Yeah, I mean, that started with Ted Williams and the science of hitting, and people were like, oh, that's crazy stuff. You don't want to do that. You don't want to swing up. And so, part of that discussion, my dad always, going down to Florida and hanging out with him and then talking hitting and yada, yada, yada. Years later, my dad came out with videotapes. And that was one of the big things is, hey, we're going to swing up a little bit. And I'll never forget, I don't know what year it was. I think I was still playing. So maybe around 2000, 2001, 2, somewhere around there. He spoke at the ABCA convention and said that. And he said people wanted to string him from the lights, that he was on another planet. How dare you tell people they have to, come up through the ball. And he said, hey, well, you got to, ball's coming down and then you're trying to match that collision course. And so there was a breakout session after he spoke to, I don't know, a few thousand people. And it was the entire place went to the breakout session. And it was just insane, he said. So, but it was years of that, people, telling him he was crazy and then him starting to use video. And then I joined him and we used a lot more video. And then people were like, oh, maybe that is kind of the case and whatever. Then it took off. And then other experts, came out and said, oh yeah, you definitely have to do that. And then, so that's where we are now.
And they just renamed the terminology.
Yeah, we'll rename it and call it our own. So regardless, yes, you want to be on plane. So on plane, and the analogy I use is, pretend the pitcher is releasing the ball from a certain point, right? Off the ground, 5 feet off the ground, 20 inches, 18 inches to the right of the rubber or wherever it is. And then that ball leaves the hand and it goes in a tube to the catcher's mitt. Okay. A tube, the diameter of the ball. What you're trying to do is get your barrel in that tube, and your barrel, not just the bat, but your barrel in that tube and stay in that tube for as long as you possibly can without lunging. Okay. So how do we do that? Some people say you want to get on plane really early. You want to snap that barrel or throw that barrel or drop that barrel away from you really quick so that you get on plane by your back leg. Physically, if you do that, you're only on plane for a very short amount of time, and then you go off the plane. You're not strong enough to drop your bat straight down and then, I can't really show you on video, and then go straight across, right? It just doesn't work. And I've only looked at, 40,000 swings in my life. So if I found one that did that, I'd be pretty fired up about it. Okay. But it doesn't happen. So if you drop your barrel early to get on that tube early or in that tube early, then you can't stay on it very long. Plus, that's where your bat is moving the slowest through the hitting zone. So bat speed always maximizes about at the front toes. Some people it's at the front toes. Some people, depending on how long their stride is, it could be 6 inches in front of their front toes. But ideally, in a perfect world, especially when you're a 125-pound kid and you're not 280 pounds like Vogelbach, you have to maximize your bat speed to where you hit the ball. So for a kid to try to hit the ball deep, get on plane deep in the zone, their bat speed's 50 miles an hour. It's only gonna be 45 there. Right. If their max is 50 at their front toes. So now you're hitting at a disadvantage. So getting on plane with the swing that I teach all my players, I don't care who you are, boy, girl, professional, college, 8. We're getting on plane at about your front knee. That's where your barrel's going to hit that tube. And this is on most pitches. Okay, this is on a thigh high to belly button height pitch. Okay. We're going to get on plane at about the front knee, and then we're going to stay on plane a few inches in front of the front toes. And that's perfect. That's magical. That way, if I'm late, I can still shoot a ball to right field. If I'm early, I can still hit a ball to left field without topping it or rolling over it, because the swing goes down, and then it gets level to the ground, and then it starts to come up a little bit, and then it comes up too much. And if you hit it where it comes up too much, we talked about Pete Alonso in the home run derby, then you start topping balls to the pull side. So it's an ever changing. Everyone has their own ideas. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, you got to get on plane." Like my wife could say that. She doesn't know anything about baseball. She could say, "Hey, Viv, you got to get on plane better." And Viv'd be like, "What? I don't know." "Oh, okay, got to get on plane." But how do you get on plane? What it is? Does it differ on inside pitches versus outside pitches? Does it differ on speed of pitches? Yes to all of these questions, by the way. Every pitch has a different trajectory. So breaking balls, so players that swing up a lot, guess what? They hit breaking balls really good. They hit curveballs, overhand curveballs really well. Why? Overhand curveballs are dropping at like 15 degrees. What does a 96 mile an hour fastball drop at? Maybe 3 or 4 degrees. Mm-hmm. That's a big change. So if you're swinging 3 and 4 degrees, but the ball's dropping at 15, you're going to cut it. You're going to cut the bottom of it, or you're going to just swing over the top of it. If you swing up at 20 degrees, hence most of those players on that list, but, well, not all of them, but some of them, and the ball's only coming at 4 degrees, then you're going to get exploited on fastball. So what is baseball and high-level softball right now doing? They're throwing pitches at the belly button. They're throwing pitches higher with a higher spin rate that doesn't drop as much. Why is that? Because players are trying to get the ball in the air more. They're trying to swing up more. So it comes down to the simple fact that you have to treat every player differently. You have to know what they're good at. For instance, there was, I'll tell you a story because I know there's probably people with young kids. My daughter, who we use as an example all the time, Viv, who's very good hitter, very good bat to ball skills, but she swings about 0 degrees. She's left-handed, sometimes down. Okay. Like I tell Viv to lean back and swing up when we're hitting off the tee. Lean back and swing up as much as you can. And she swings up like 5 degrees. It's just like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to fall over.
Yeah.
Okay. A player on her team swings up way too much. She drops her hands and she swings up way too much. So Viv's talking to her. Yeah, my dad tells me I got to lean back and swing up. And when I do that, that's when I'm my best. And this girl looks at her like that doesn't make sense to me. Lean back and swing up. That's what everyone's telling me not to do. Well, yeah, that's right, because it doesn't work for that player. So you have to understand each individual player and their swing to be able to cater to their needs. And that's what being a quality hitting coach is. What is that player? What are their needs? How do we support them? Eric Chavez is very good at that. How do I support them? Maybe with a mental plan, maybe making it simpler, maybe making it more complicated. Hey, maybe this player loves to talk mechanics, and maybe you can boost their ego by saying, look how good your mechanics are. Look how good your swing plane is, even if they don't know exactly what it is. Look how good you're sitting back on your back leg and not lunging. Oh man, I feel good. I think I'm going to go out and get some hits today. Versus, okay, the count is 2-1. And every time this pitcher has a 2-1 count, 46% they throw a fastball, 23% they throw a changeup, blah, blah, blah. So now all of a sudden the count goes to 2-1. You're like, oh boy, what was that again? He throws 46% fastballs. I guess I'll look for the fastball. No, you can't be like that. Your brain's going to explode.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like that's what that pitcher normally does, but you're not everyone else in the league. So you have to know what that pitcher does against you, not what he does against everybody else, every other right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter. So you can have all these tendencies of pitchers, but like I said, pitching coaches are pretty good now. Pitchers are pretty smart. They're mixing more than they ever have. They're trying not to get into patterns. So what do you have to do? You have to create your own. I'm going to look for a fastball. I'm going to look for something up in the zone. and I'm going to stay on top of it. Or I'm going to sit on breaking balls and abort anything else. Even though that pitcher tendencies may not be that way, I have to have a plan and stick with a plan, because those tendencies are sometimes league-wide and not player-oriented. And that's where charts and all that stuff kind of messes with players' heads. And I think that's what the Mets have done this year, is they've made it simpler on players, and they're not diving as much. The analytics are there, but they're not bombarding their players with it.
Now, mechanically,
some players do like it, but the players that don't, you can't force feed it.
Mechanically speaking, with getting on, it's easy to say, hey, let's get on playing with the pitch, or hey, do this, hey, do that. But it comes down to certain other fundamentals and mechanics that a hitter needs to execute to be able to get on plane with the pitch. What are those type of mechanics that a hitter needs to properly, that fits them, to properly get on plane with the pitch?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jim, because I did skip over that. It starts with your tee work. It starts with your pregame work. It starts with your BP. It starts with your front toss. It starts with your machine work, all of that. So in order to get on plane, if you drop your back elbow and your top hand opens too soon, casting or bat drag or both, that's going to throw your barrel down, and you're going to get on plane later. So what we do when that happens, then we self-correct, and then we try to swing up too much at the end to get back to the ball. So if you have bad mechanics, you're not going to be on plane very long. So being short to the ball, keeping your elbows apart, making sure your hands are working in front of your back elbow, not to have any bat drag or casting, crucially important. The second part of it is extension. You have to extend. If you extend out in front, you have to extend at the right time. But if you extend through the pitch plane or through the direction of your swing, if you're going to the opposite field, extending more to the opposite field side. If you're pulling it, you're going to extend more to the pull side. But that extension part keeps you on plane. So if you're normally on plane for this much with no extension, what is that, 10 inches? But you now all of a sudden incorporate some top hand extension. Now we can stretch that plane out maybe to 14 or 15 inches. So extension is very important with that.
Yeah.
Tilt, body tilt, not necessarily tilt inward towards the plate for a vertical bat angle, but staying behind the ball. We talk about Ken Griffey Jr., the old tee that he used. I don't know why I can't think of that tee. Remember the blue tee? You had it. I mean, it was big it was big when I was growing up, but I think it was bigger right after me. But with the bars that went down, I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was just looking it up, but I do remember.
Yeah,
right.
It had blue bars and it went straight down, and you
had to swing through those bars.
Yeah. So that's what
you
felt. But if that's changed it to being able to adjust it so you can swing up or. But Griffey's the guy that used to lean back and really sit back a lot because he thought about swinging down more with his hands. So your axis, your spine angle, staying behind the ball, very, very important. If we look at the home run derby, guys really stayed behind the ball. Soto he was back, but he wasn't leaning back as far as maybe Rodriguez was. It was unbelievable in that, and even Pujols and Alonso. So, those three things I would say, making sure you have good mechanics, short to the ball early. Otherwise, you're going to dump the barrel, go under the plane, and then come back up over the plane. Making sure that we extend through the plane out in front. So we're short to it, long through it. That's old school saying right there. And then making sure we're not drifting or lunging during rotation or prior to rotation to make sure that our body's in a stable position behind the ball.
All right. Also, too, I want to get to this statistically.
Yeah.
I found this with couple of major league pitchers, vertical movement. So basically, the pitcher, for the audience that may not understand that completely, the pitcher throwing on a downhill plane. Clay Holmes of the New York Yankees has one of the highest, has some of the highest vertical movement in all of baseball, 6.6. Now you counter that with Dustin May, whose vertical movement is at 0.2 in terms of inches, by the way. He's at 0.2. Clay Holmes is at 6.6. How does a hitter go about adjusting their swing plane to match that pitch plane from those two types of pitchers that are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum?
It has to do with what is the ball doing through the hitting zone. So for that, somebody like Holmes is going to have, his ball is going to drop more which is interesting. His arm angle must be much, much higher than May's, who's he's going to be more of a horizontal movement guy, left to right. But 0.2 inches doesn't seem like
now with
much.
just a little more context. I think just looking at these two pitchers mechanically, Clay Holmes, he's a sinker ball pitcher. He comes more downhill, and Dustin May more so. When people say, well, his fastball or his ball rises into the hitting zone, really rising from pitcher's perspective, it's actually staying on plane with their arm angle. And with Dustin May, he's more straight to the plate, and his pitch stays on plane with his arm angle and his release point. That's just to add more context.
So he must really get down the mound too in order to do that.
Yes,
for sure. So what you'd have to figure out is what is that degree angle typically. So somebody like Holmes, you would have to think bottom half of the ball. You're thinking bottom half of the ball. It's probably dropping a little bit more, but it's dropping a little bit more because he pounds the bottom half of the strike zone. Like he's tough because he's clipping the bottom of that strike zone. I saw him pitch the other night or a week ago or so, and I was really impressed. It was that extra inning game. I don't remember who they were playing. It may have been the Red Sox, actually.
Red Sox, yeah.
And so, for somebody like that, you got two options. One, I'm going to try to get under his pitch. I'm going to try to get to the bottom half. I'm going to sink into my legs more and get to the bottom half of that pitch. Number two, you can say, you know what? I'm going to look up because I know I'm not going to hit that pitch at my shins and my knees. And if the umpire calls 3 in a row, I'm toast, down there. But I'm going to make him get the ball up to my thighs. That's the only chance I'm going to get. Somebody like May, it's the opposite. I'm going to try to swing over these pitches. I'm going to try to hit the top half of these pitches because everybody else swings underneath it. So you're not going to make, I have to swing up more or down more. That's a very, very difficult move when you're facing pitchers like that. That's why you want to be your attack angle or how much you're swinging up. Deep in the zone, you're going to be closer to 5 degrees. Out in front, you're going to be 15. So if you can stay within those parameters, then you're usually good to go. And I always say, if we can be at 10 degrees at our front toes, we're going to maximize stuff. And then from there, what we're trying to do is, like I said, we're trying to get over balls or under balls, depending on how they're like. Bregman's really good at that. He's looking for high fastballs. If you hear him talk, he says, I try to swing an inch over this. Or if it's a sinker ball guy, I'm going to try to swing an inch under the ball. But I'm not really going to think about swinging up or down more. All that is done and dictated in your side work and your prep work and with your hitting coach to stay within range of having good mechanics. And then we can kind of go from there on certain pitchers and what we're trying to do.
Any final advice? Any final tidbits about getting on plane with the pitch? I think we did a great job today of really re-examining it.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand when you're getting on plane and be very, very careful for those of you that maybe don't follow my teachings and follow the teachings of others that are out there. You can get on plane early if a pitcher is, if you're 10U, 12U, 14U. But as soon as you get to high school and you try to get on plane early, you're going to get exposed. So make sure you don't build mechanics that are hurting you at a young age that you're going to have to change at an old age. I guess that's the best advice I can give you.
And as always, great stuff this week.
Thanks,
knocked it out of the park.
You too.
Wait. Hold on. Let me do that better. The video part is better. I stayed on plane a while because I got extension.
There you go. You kept that lead arm in position.
That's right. Next week we are talking. This will be fun. Tune in, fathers and dads of baseball and softball players, because we're talking about coaching amateur hitters correctly. There's a certain way to do it, and quite frankly, a lot of people don't do it correctly. We're talking about that next week. What can we expect? I'm curious.
That'll be a great topic because it's not just about coaching them how to throw or coaching them how to hit mechanically. It's about creating an environment for them to enjoy the game and to learn at the same time. I have pretty good experience with that. So I think that'll be a really good topic.
Don't forget to subscribe to my other podcast with Cassie Riley Boscia, Cross Functionality. Every Wednesday, 9 a.m., Apple, Google, Spotify. We talk about baseball and softball coaching and some other stuff from around the coaching world. from baseball and softball. And of course, subscribe to the Softball Strength Academy page, YouTube page, for the video version of that podcast. What do you got coming up at the lab, sir?
We're just getting ready for fall ball. Everybody's taking a big deep breath because it's 103 every day. Luckily, the lab is completely air conditioned and 75 degrees, 76 degrees. It's actually cold when you go in the door.
I was going to say, it's funny. I stepped into my gym the other day when it was really hot here in Tampa, and I felt a chill. I was chilly. I was like, oh, it's too chilly.
I want to be cold, man. Yeah, just like that. So yeah, we're preparing. We're doing a lot of live at bats kind of right now with our high school guys, and so that's going on. It's called Scout Yard. So we're doing, we got a lot of tech outside. We're able to play on the field. And then we're preparing for, we're compiling all the information from our players. What was your summer like? What did you do well? What did you not do well? And then we take all of that information and create plans for our players this fall and, early winter. So that's exactly what I do with the Epstein Online Academy too, is I take all the videos, and I've got a ton of them that have come in, from the end of the summer, kind of the last tournament. And then I'm asking everyone, okay, what do we want to work on in the fall? What was your biggest miss? Were you fouling off good pitches? Were you pulling balls foul? Were you striking out? Were you, maybe it's approach and they say, I'm just hitting with 2 strikes all the time. Okay, well, we can talk through that. But if it's mechanical, then it's like, okay, here's your plan for the next 4 weeks. I want you to really focus on this. Then resend me a video. And so we're doing the same thing. I do that remotely, and then we do that in person at the lab. And we do it because it works. And our job is to get players better. And that's fun. That's fun for me. That's why I do it. I posted something on Twitter, a kid I worked with when he was like 10 years old.
I saw that.
And it was so great. And then he came back. He's been struggling a little bit. So he flew to Denver, and I was like, good Lord, did I get that much older, because you're big now. But anyway, he's going to, we started this swing. So for those of you that aren't real sure where to start, if you have a 9 to 13-year-old player, start with the drills, because I have countless players that started at that, and you know where they are now? They're playing in college at the next level, and they didn't have to change. His swing hasn't changed. His timing and rhythm did. That's what we had to work on, but his mechanics haven't changed. So that's why we do it, man, to see somebody that, you make a big difference in their life as a coach. Okay. We're not doing it to, fly to the space. I was going to say the moon, but really Bezos doesn't really go to the moon. He just goes.
I just sung Frank Sinatra.
Anyway, that's it. Rant over. Rant over. Don't get too complicated, kids. Keep it simple. Simple mechanics play a long time.
You completely glossed over the fact I just sung Frank Sinatra.
Did you say "Fly Me to the Moon"? I probably just. Yeah. You want to play Amongst the Stars?
Yes.
You want to see what Jupiter's like? All right.
Let's get out of here. All right. Thanks for listening, watching, everybody. Again, subscribe, Apple, Google, Spotify, and the Lap Epstein Hitting Podcast YouTube page. We will talk to you, episode 108, next week. Have a good one.